The following audio may contain the personal testimonials of some independent OPTAVIA coaches or clients of OPTAVIA. The results relayed in these messages are based on the unique experiences of the participants, and we cannot guarantee like or similar outcomes. While you may be inspired by these accounts, please note that any stories of success have not been verified, and your individual path to healthy living and weight loss will vary. As always, it is our recommendation that you consult with a healthcare provider before starting a weight loss program. In addition, this audio may contain income or earnings representations of some independent OPTAVIA coaches. OPTAVIA makes no guarantee of financial success. Success with OPTAVIA results from successful sales efforts, which requires hard work, diligence, skill, persistence, competence, and leadership. Please see the OPTAVIA income disclosure statement for statistics on actual earnings of coaches under the U.S. compensation plan, which differs from the international compensation plan. Yours in health, the OPTAVIA team.
All right, guys, well, we're going to get started with our presentation tonight. My name is Craig Blanchette, and I will be your host tonight. The topic for tonight is, are you marching towards optimal health? Little play on words there, where we have the month of March and we're marching towards health. To give you a little bit about a little background, a little bit of my story. I've been working with OPTAVIA for about 10 years. Interestingly enough, only about 6 months of that was where I was focused on weight loss. The rest of this time has been focusing on life transformation, life of transformation. In this picture you see here, I actually was born with a birth defect, and so I actually have really short legs. You probably couldn't tell because I probably look as tall as anybody else does on video camera. But one of the things that it's important to me is not only to have a healthy body that can do things, but in addition to that, have a lifestyle that allows me to, what I call, have more yes days. And what I would consider a yes day is a day when you get a call for adventure. And not only do you have the body to say yes to that adventure, but you have the lifestyle, the finances, the whole thing, where you can say yes when adventure comes calling. And so I'll be your host tonight, and I'm excited to share with you a little bit. We have a poll here for those that are joining us, and we want to know what answer best describes you. Are you a coach? Are you a client? Or are you a guest tonight? So go ahead and vote in the poll here. I'm going to vote as well. And there we go. And we will move on with our the rest of it. So today we're going to be talking about a little bit about the Habits of Health transformational system. And this is where the data, really the process of how OPTAVIA does far more than simply help your waistline get smaller for a temporary period of time. We don't want to have temporary results here. We want to have lifelong transformation. Part of that usually begins with a physical transformation, but if it stops there, you're missing so much of what OPTAVIA has to offer. And so we use a transformation system, and that includes a life book, which is essentially what I look at the life book as. It's a detector of vacancies. It's, you go through this life book, it takes about a year to complete it. And what you're doing is you're going through looking at your life, and you're finding the missing pieces that are keeping you from the life that you want to live. And so as you work through this life book, there'll be pieces that are installed and are there, but there'll be pieces that are missing. And the life book will showcase those kinds of things so that they don't have to continue missing in the future. You fill in those gaps. We also have our amazing app, and this app is a micro habit installation tool. A lot of people have said, oh, this app is different. Look, it works different than other apps that I've used. This is not a calorie tracking app. This is not an app that tracks your exercise. There's other apps for those kind of micro mechanical details. This app is designed to work in conjunction with the Life book and the Habits of Health book to be able to actually install these micro habits that lead to macro habits that allow you to accomplish goals in your life. And of course, the Habits of Health book there, that is a reference guide that we refer to. A lot of information in there. And so we have that as our volume of information that we refer to. So that is the transformational system. And one of the things that I like most about that is that it's a system that's been well thought through, so we don't produce one-off. We don't want one-off results. We want consistent, repeatable, dependable results where no matter who joins this program, they plug in, they move along, and they can have transformation in their life. Let's see. Oh, look at this. We have a little graphic. This is a little bit about the app, and this app has actually worked really well. I know I've used it. I continue to use it to install these particular habits. Our agenda tonight is we're going to be covering the mindset that's necessary to march towards optimal health, the skill sets, and mindset is really having a clear vision of what optimal health and well-being looks like for you. If you are not clear on what you want, you can't be compelled to do the things necessary to build it, to actually experience it. We're also mindset's one thing. We also need some skill sets. There's some things you know, and there's some things you don't know. And there's this building of these skills. And then when you have your mindset and your skill set in place, if you don't take action, nothing changes. So action is also necessary. Specific actions, actually, to keep you on the path toward optimal health and well-being. Because nobody wants, raise your hand, and hopefully nobody's going to raise their hand right now. Raise the hand if you would like temporary success, right? I've talked to many people and I say, well, you've lost weight lots in the past. You've become healthier in the past, and then you lost your health again. And I ask people sometimes, how soon after you lose your weight do you want to gain it back? And nobody says right away. They always say, no, I want to keep my weight off. Ah, good. Well, you've come to the right place. Let's get that weight off and stop worrying about weight. Let's focus on living our life to the fullest and being available for those adventures, building more yes days in our life. So did you know that March is National Nutrition Month? I don't know if you knew that, but it is. This is the campaign celebrated each year during the month of March, and it focuses on the importance of making informed food choices and developing sound eating and physical activity habits. So you might not realize that, but that's what March is all about. We're going to talk a little bit about mindset. And so when you think about mindset, what does optimal health and well-being look like to you? If you don't have a clear picture, it's important that you get clarity. Really important. There's an idea, and Dr. A talks about this. He talks about a compelling reason. When you're compelled to do something, it's as if you can't not do it. I know that's a double negative, but it's like you're compelled to do it. You have a compulsion, like you must do it. A lot of times we think of compulsions as things that are related to bad habits or maybe vices. But what if you had a compulsion towards wanting to live in a specific body so bad that you just could not do it? Well, the thing that needs to happen before that is you need to get really clear on what that is. As you become clear, you will develop this compulsion that it's just going to happen. And so really important that. So we're going to take another poll here. What is your biggest barrier to achieving your health goals? Let's bring up that poll. All right, we're all going to vote here. Make sure we'll give about 20 seconds for everybody here to vote. This is going to be fun. Make sure if you're away from your computer, you run back and you vote, because we got a poll and we want to hear from all of you tonight. All right. Why don't we go ahead and bring up the results for that poll? Excellent. So here's the result. Real interesting. For those of you, some of you are listening actually on podcasts, so you don't see these polls. So we're going to go over your options. All of our options were, first of all, the question, what is your biggest barrier to achieving your health goals? And the options were accountability, confidence, time commitment, or being clear. And the thing that actually, the answer that won the day is accountability. 38% people said that their biggest barrier is accountability. And I wonder, so thanks for bringing that poll up. I wonder when we think about that reality of actually being clear, and I wonder how we think about the reality of accountability. And I know I've talked, one of my mentors, Terry Miller, and I'm sure many of you have heard her name. She said there's a difference between being accountable to and being accountable for. And I thought about this a lot. When someone comes to you and says, will you hold me accountable? I often tell people no. And that may seem kind of weird when you think about that. I don't want to hold somebody accountable like I'm forcing them to do something. On the other hand, what I want is say, if you want to be accountable to me, let's talk about what that actually looks like. And so choosing to be accountable to something looks different than someone holding you accountable, right? And so when someone wants to, when they say that to me, I says, well, yes, well, maybe, what does that look like? And then we come up with an agreement between us where they will be the ones that are leading the show and they will check in with me. And what I do is I say, well, if I don't hear from you a couple of days, how about I respond and say, where'd you go? Do you still want this? Is this important to you? And so the idea of having accountability is super important. And that was actually the number one in our poll results today. So it is awesome. You're not going to believe this, guys. You're going to meet one of my favorite people on planet Earth. And she's someone that I've been working with personally for 2+ years. We'll just say that. And her name is Caseyna. And Caseyna is an independent certified OPTAVIA coach. And we've been working on her journey together. And I have not been holding her accountable, but she has chosen to be accountable to me. And we've been working on that. So welcome, Caseyna, to our show or our presentation tonight. Tell me a little bit about these pictures here. So this is a picture, and I know that your journey is not all focused and consumed with just the physical. But tell us a little bit about this photo. I see you here in a green and white dress, and it looks like you're at some kind of a festivity, and there's something going on there. So tell us a little bit about these two photos.
Yes, thank you, Craig. And yes, I was in a friend's wedding, and when I looked at that when I first saw that picture, it was really terrifying because I didn't think I looked quite like that. But you know, if you've ever been in a friend's wedding before, you know, you often don't get an option to choose what you wear. You're asked to wear a certain thing. And for me, I was so used to hiding my body in my clothing. And that just wasn't an option for this event. This was right before I started my journey with OPTAVIA. And so looking at it now, I can see the pain that I was in and how uncomfortable I was and how sad it was to see myself in pictures like this.
Sometimes it's amazing when we look at ourselves in a mirror, or when we look through our own eyes down at our own body, we get used to that. And it's not until you see yourself from somebody else's point of view, like in a photo, you go, uh-oh, that's a little bit different. That's a little bit uncomfortable. And isn't it interesting how many of us have been, I haven't never been in a wedding where I wore a dress, so it's not me, but how many of the ladies that are joining us tonight have been in a wedding and the bride, or, you know, she picked out the dress, and maybe that dress wasn't so flattering on your figure, but you wore it, right? And so that's kind of what you're thinking. Now you have on this edit, so you're down about 40 pounds, which is fantastic. I know you're still dialing things in. You're still working towards going from good to great, because clearly you look fantastic. Tell us a little about this other photo here where you have the word hottest Caseyna here. You have transform. You've got these things. Tell us about this little vision board that you shared with us.
Yeah, absolutely. And so that started with a conversation that you and I had about getting really clear, because for the last year or so, I've just been really comfortable and complacent in getting to a certain point on my journey, but not quite reaching my actual goal. And so as we had these conversations, I was able to come up with, what does the future Caseyna look like? And if I feel like I'm hot now, I'm comfortable now in the body that I've created so far, then what does that future Caseyna look like? Well, and we came up together with, or maybe it was my idea, hottest Caseyna. So being the best version of Caseyna. And that, of course, is not just a physical transformation, but it really truly is an inward transformation that has gotten me this far and is continuing throughout my journey.
Yeah, I see a couple things here. I see some shoes, and they're not just a nice high heel shoe, but it says fabulous on top of them. That's fantastic, right? And then dream
Yes.
fearlessly. Well, dreaming fearlessly has little to do with weight, right? It has to do with much other things. And you have a picture of some travel, pack your bags. There's a ooh la la dress. Tell me a little bit about the dress there.
Yeah, so I started this vision board to start compiling things that have been swimming around in my head. But again, just getting really, as we're marching forward in our health, getting really, really clear and getting that vision put there, out there, so that you can see what it is that you're trying to create. Otherwise, it was just a fairy tale in my head. So it wasn't any sort of reality that I could pin down. But so I have a goal dress, and it's not just on my vision board, it's on my lock screen on my phone, so that every time I pick up my phone, I'm reminded. And so anything that comes in front of me that tempts me to go off of my plan or to deviate, it just isn't an option, because I have that reminder right there next to me. And I look at it, as we all do, hundreds of times a day. And the other things that have come as a catalyst for my health journey, how I've gotten healthy and gotten to this place, it's allowed me to do things in life that I really wasn't able to do before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting when you think about that. And for those of you that are home, if you have a pen and a paper, you might just grab it. Or if you're listening to this later, you just grab a simple piece of paper and a pen. And what I want you to do is, at the top of that piece of paper, well, first of all, write down the center. Make a, just go ahead and take and do a line right down the center. All right. And then what I want you to do is actually have on one side, it says qualify. And the other side says doesn't qualify. And when you're thinking and you're super clear and you have things that come along, maybe they're food options, maybe they're dessert options, maybe they're activities or non-activities, then when you are super clear, like Caseyna was talking about, what you can say is there's not a lot of drama. Things just either qualify or they don't qualify based upon your clarity. Think about this. Think about you're super clear that there's a bathing suit in your future, right? Or maybe there's a marathon in your future, or maybe there's a relationship in your future. Maybe there's something you want to build, or maybe there's a vacation that's going to cost a certain amount of money that you're going to have to develop, right? Whatever it is. And then you come up to a decision, and the decision either does this thing qualify or does it not qualify? Think about the clarity when you're going on vacation and you're driving down to Disneyland, and you're so clear about where you're going to Disneyland. and you get to a T in the road, and you're like, well, that way goes to Disneyland, that way goes somewhere else. This road qualifies, that road doesn't. Boom, you turn and you go. It's just simple. It's not like, oh, I'm really torn between the road that doesn't take me where I want to go and the road that does. Or you get to a point where you get to work and you're on the 501 and you're in fat burn and you're killing it, right? And then donut shows up at work and you go, oh, donut doesn't qualify versus this thing that does qualify. And so it's just as simple. And if you're not able to think about it that clearly as it qualifies or doesn't qualify, maybe you need to spend a little bit of time getting clear. And I'm telling you what, like Caseyna and I have talked about this a lot. It is far easier, not that we're looking for just easy, but it is far easier to be 100% on plan than it is 99%. Stuff comes along and you're like, doesn't qualify. But if you're 99%, or if you go to an event and you say, well, I'm just going to see how it goes, it's going to be probably a learning experience, right? And so anyway, so those are some things to think about. That there's just you try to get out of the drama and all of the, oh, I'm this or that about this donut loves me, or whatever it might be. And it's just, maybe you're saving up for a trip. Does this purchase that I want to make qualify, and will it move me closer to my goal, or will it move me farther away? Dr. A calls this a really simple 3 words. Are you ready for them? I know you know them. I know you've heard them. Stop, challenge, choose. It's three simple things. Stop, challenge, choose allows you to stop and you ask yourself, does this qualify? Does this not qualify? And if it qualifies, the answer is yes. If it doesn't qualify and you're clear, the answer is no. No for now, at least. So super fun here. Now let's get back to the presentation. All right, so next up we have skill sets. We're going to talk a little bit about skill sets. I know Caseyna and I are going to talk a little bit, but a skill set basically is overcoming barriers that hinder your success. And we talked about that, about being clear. Does this qualify? Does this not qualify? And since all things are possible, you have the ability over time, with specific focus, guidance, and practice, to become the dominant force in your life. I wonder, Caseyna, when you think about that statement there, you have the capacity over time, you don't have to learn it tomorrow, and if you give yourself time and you focus on the right things with a little bit of guidance, you can become the dominant force in your life. How are you becoming the dominant force in your life?
By focusing on what I'm trying to create and not focusing on the things that have in the past been a distraction. I mean, using the life book is huge because it's really the mindset that has to change, so that, because we always say and we always hear, I know what to do, I just don't do it. And if that's true, then the reality is something has to change. And so I know you started talking to me about journaling a long time ago, and I really wasn't a fan. But the life book has really been a game changer for me with that, and just building on those habits over time. And again, with the theme of marching is you have to take, it's not a race. You have to take
marching, right? You did marching band, right? So you have some experience with this. Yeah. Tell us about that.
So, you're in a group and you have to march together, right? And you're not, you have to take the same measured steps, and you have to make sure that you're in line with the rest of the people that you're marching with. And so that is what the habits are. It's a consistency. It's not chasing after one thing and then getting distracted and running after something else. That's what gets us distracted from our goals. But if we march together, and that's that community component, and you're taking those steps, and you're all moving forward towards that same purpose, that same vision together.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. Exactly. One of the things is interesting. I know you probably think of these marching bands where everybody turns left and one person turns right, right? And you've seen that, and that's kind of a mess. Think about this word, because I love the idea of marching together in a marching band, and that you are all walking at the same speed. You're all taking steps together. That's community. I heard this long ago, and hopefully this will sink in with you guys. If you look at the word community and you break it into two words, you get common, unity, community. And so what are we marching in common unity? Well, my answer to that is that everybody listening right now to my voice, if I were to ask you the question, are you as healthy as you want to be? I bet you not one of us would say yes. We probably have some things together. We're probably healthier than we've been, but we are not as healthy as we want to be. But what unifies us together is just by listening to this podcast or this live webinar tonight, you're doing something about it. That's what binds us together. We're not as healthy as we want to be, but we're doing something together, and that provides common unity. So specific strategies to overcome your barriers. You first of all need to make a decision. You need to get clear and decide. You decide that tomorrow's going to look different than yesterday. Boom, it's just going to happen. Then you make mindful decisions that progress your overall health and well-being. So then you think about, what am I doing? Is this getting me closer? That qualification or not non-qualification? And then you surround yourself with other people in the marching band, right? Surround yourself with a supportive community. That happens like joining the Wednesday webinars. And then keep your why and keep clear in the forefront of your mind. Here's another couple things here we're thinking about is, as you're going through these stages, you're going to go from not knowing what you don't know to knowing what you don't know to knowing what you know, and then to moving to you just do it and it's second nature. And so this is a process, and we talk about the 4 stages of learning in the habits of health. And action steps here: stop, challenge, choose. We talked about that. Stay consistent with your life book, even if you're only, one thing, and this is kind of funny, and hopefully you'll appreciate this. Sometimes people say, I just don't have time. And I said, do you go to the bathroom every day? And they said, well, yes, I'm human. Well, what if you were to, while you're downloading, upload? And it's like, you wouldn't believe how many of my clients literally read their habits of health while they're doing their business in the morning. Maybe you do a couple of business sessions per day, more habits of health time, more life book time. Literally, I have people going through this, and while they're sitting there doing their business in the morning, they read a few pages, and guess what? They are changing their lives, and it doesn't take any new time. I know that's what you've learned to expect when I do these webinars, some kind of crazy talk. Connect back with your coach and share what you've applied in the Stop, Challenge, Choose. So how did you enjoy this community time? We're going to take another poll, I believe. Here it is. What did you think of our time tonight for this community time? I'm going to give myself a nice C+. I don't know. I'm going to give Caseyna an A+. How about that? All right. So if you're not at your computer, come back to your computer and go ahead and vote in that poll. And lastly here, what I want to do is I want to talk about ways that you can go through the life book, and you can actually access these recordings in our library. You can go to our YouTube playlist. We have our Habits of Health podcast. And of course, you can subscribe to our OPTAVIA 30 texts. So those are 3 different ways that you can do it. If you go to YouTube, just type in OPTAVIA or Habits of Health Zoom, and you'll be able to find the entire library there. When you go to your podcast player of choice, search for Habits of Health. You will find that too. Go ahead and subscribe to both of those. You will love it. And I want you all to join us next week, because we're going to be featuring Element 6, Your Path to a Healthy Weight. And Susan LaBelle is going to be hosting that. So thank you all for joining us tonight. We had a great time together, and we'll see you next time on one of our Habits of Health webinars.
This audio may have contained the personal testimonials of some independent OPTAVIA coaches or clients of OPTAVIA. The results relayed in these messages are based on the unique experiences of the participants, and we cannot guarantee like or similar outcomes. While you may be inspired by these accounts, please note that any stories of success have not been verified, and your individual path to optimal health will vary. As always, it is our recommendation that you consult with a healthcare provider before starting a weight loss program. In addition, this audio may have contained income or earnings representations of some independent OPTAVIA coaches. OPTAVIA makes no guarantee of financial success. Success with OPTAVIA results from successful sales efforts, which requires hard work, diligence, skill, persistence, competence, and leadership. Please see the OPTAVIA income disclosure statement for statistics on actual earnings of coaches under the U.S. compensation plan, which differs from the international compensation plan. Yours in health, the OPTAVIA team.